What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. Fun show today. We're going to talk about some bye week awards, right? Biggest play, most important player, and most importantly, where was I wrong? We're going to get into that, all of that, and more. Great guest on today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Really appreciate everybody tuning in, your team every single day. Today's episode of Locked On Badgers is brought to you by Sling TV. Don't miss this weekend's matchups right here on Sling. Sling TV, the TV you love for the price you love. Try it today. We're going to get right into it. We always try to get right into it. Not a ton of fluff here usually. We're going to bring in Rajiv, who already, after just a couple times, I have people like, man, you need more Rajiv. We need more of this man. So welcome to the show as always. Really do appreciate you jumping in, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll tell you what, it's really exciting to be in the middle of the bye week and not be disappointed about what we saw over the weekend. I think it's really nice to see where it's an enjoyable bye week.
It feels so much better, right? Like it's like you had a good meal and you can kind of sleep on it now. You can get a good restful weekend of sleep. And this is actually your idea. I love this idea. We're going to talk bye week awards. We have a bunch of them. We're going to start right here. Offensive MVP up to this point. I'm going to kick it to you.
Yeah, for me, it's Mertz, and I thought about this for a little bit, but when you look at the offense, is there really any player that has done more for our team this year? I mean, we haven't had the greatest offense all year, but when Mertz started with us, we knew he had all the talent in the world. We knew that he performed great in his very first ever game, and then he kind of went downhill, but his development this year has been great. We've opened up the playbook, obviously, since Leonard's been on board. And I just feel like you can see that talent coming through on some of the passes that he's made. And it just really shows that, without him, we are nothing. You said it on yesterday's show, I think, that if Mertz goes down, the season's over. And he is our most valuable player, and he's done a great job. And when he plays well, when he doesn't turn the ball over, how many quarterbacks have we had in the last 20 years that have talent like this? We really haven't.
Not many, man. I mean, you could almost throw Wilson out, right? Like Wilson's Wisconsin unicorn that everybody points to, but like quarterbacks that you brought in as a high schooler, developed, had on the roster, it's probably just him, man. I mean, honestly, he's a more talented player than Cone.
Yeah, sure.
He absolutely is. So I almost went Mertz. I'm saving him for something later. I may have cheated a tiny bit on this, but actually, offensive MVP, I'm going Braelon Allen for a couple reasons. I think all your points on Mertz are dead on. Like, he has been awesome this year, far exceeded everybody's expectations. But here's the thing. It's still kind of an offense centered around Braelon Allen, right? He's still 9th in the country in rushing, 9th in the country in rushing attempts. And I feel like we're still not fully there all the time with Mertz, either through a coaching staff trusting him standpoint, or there's still some moments where, I don't know, it feels like he's not, I don't want to say fully trusted, but again, it just feels like Bobby Ingram, he fully trusts Braelon Allen in the running game, and he's not all the way there with Graham Mertz yet. So I feel like every single game, we know what we're going to get with Braelon Allen. To me, that kind of makes him the engine that drives the team. Mertz is more the ceiling lifter to me. But I think Mertz is, you can't go wrong, I think, with either of those picks here.
Yeah, I hear you. I think obviously the Allen thing is clear. With running back, it's like it's always so dependent on how that line plays. And honestly, and when Malusi was still not hurt, he really brought in a lot of that. He kind of mixed it up a little bit with the running backs, and I thought he did great. I totally get the Allen thing, but for me, it's just without Mertz, we're nothing.
Yeah, I think it's a very solid point. Although with the running back depth chart, like, where is Julius Davis? Where is it's almost like with the Braelon Allen. That could be another topic. We're gonna get into that in another show. Like, what is going on with that? You can't give him carries with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter of a game. Anyway, defensive MVP. That's gonna be a different topic. Let's go defensive MVP. Who do you got for this year's up to this point defensive MVP?
This was kind of hard for me. I wanted to immediately go with Herbig just because, he's got like 9.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. But I go with Benton because I feel like Keeanu Benton, although he's not going to ever have the numbers, nose tackles aren't going to have those numbers. They soak up so much O-line pressure. They've got that of those interior linemen locked down so that Herbig and Turner and Meta can all make the plays that they make. And I think even half a game when Benton was out, he was hurt a little bit. It made a difference in the line. It made a difference in the pressure we were getting. It made a difference in how our linebackers could really affect the plays. So for me, without Benton, our defense takes a big hit. So that's my MVP. I know I can kind of see it multiple ways, but I feel like at the end of the day, I got to go back to the big guy in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I got Benton too. He's obviously right there with a group of people that you can't lose off this team. And what gets lost a little bit with Benton is he's not just a clogger. Like, he's been able to get penetration this year. He's second on the team in sacks, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, 2 sacks,
which is ridiculous, right, from his spot. I actually have Torch. I have Torch at number one. For a couple reasons. He's actually tied for the lead nationally in interceptions right now with 5, which is incredible. He's obviously got the 2 pick sixes, both happening in critical points of games. Although, listen, we weren't losing the first one, but still, first quarter, both of them pick sixes. He's second on the team in tackles, but more importantly, much like Keeanu Benton, I think he's been kind of an anchor in a spot that's had a lot of flux, a lot of youth, a lot of new players. And he's really been that one guy I feel like Jim Leonard can go to, can point to. He knows what he's going to get there. He's consistent. He's one of the more verbal leaders that we've seen on defense. So I'm going Torchio. I would have Benton 2, and then I would have Herbig 3. Because really, Herbig, to me, he's had a good year, but I've actually been like a little disappointed in a way. Like, he's kind of been I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but teams have just kind of been able to run the ball at him and take him out of the game a little bit. So great player, right? And really the only consistent pass rusher Wisconsin has, to take nothing away from him. But he's not in that same class, at least as of yet, of like a TJ Watt that can really do both, of players that can really set the edge and also rush the passer.
Totally. I hear you on Torch too. And I thought about it, but I feel like I'm a little jaded with the amount of missed tackles that our defensive backfield has had this year. I was like, I just don't want to pick someone from the defensive backfield, even though, listen, Torchio's, he's amazing. Like, he does a lot of good things for us. He forces turnovers, but yeah, I struggled with the missed tackles from the entire secondary.
No, and Torch is a part of that. There's no doubt about it. He's missed a couple big ones for sure. And Benton is obviously a very worthy choice there. Let's go team MVP. And this is maybe where I cheated a little bit, not to give away my answer, but I'm curious where you go team MVP.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with Mertz on this one because, and I thought about this a lot too, but I just kind of felt like, again, this team lives and dies by what he does. You've seen time and time again, when he turns the ball over a couple times, everything falls apart. And when he doesn't, though, look how much different we look. And how much different do we look against Northwestern? And you compare that with Michigan State. And then you look at Purdue. When he doesn't turn the ball over and he stands back there, and yes, he has to have a nice protected pocket, he can fire that thing all over the pitch. And it's really exciting to watch him do it. We haven't had that before. So yes, he's our most valuable player. Yes, I think he's been the best player. But it's kind of with this caveat of when he's been really good, but if you're looking at more of a consistent player, that's where I would have maybe put Benton up at number 1 here, because he's got the consistency. But I'm still going with Mertz because he is the engine that makes this entire thing go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where I'm right there with you. I'm going to go with Mertz as well, which I know sounds odd because I went Braelon Allen, offensive MVP, Graham Mertz, team MVP, but I just feel like he's such a ceiling raiser, right? Like, he impacts more, like, to your point. I mean, Braelon Allen impacts time of possession, which obviously helps the defense. But when Mertz is good, everything works. He makes the entire team better, right? So he creates scoring chances that allows the defense to play with the lead and pin their ears back a little bit, for example. So I 100% agree with you. I could have easily gone Mertz, offensive MVP and team MVP, but I did want to highlight Braelon Allen and kind of just the workload that he has and just driving the offense forward. But yeah, Mertz, 22nd nationally in passer rating. Nationally. Like 17 touchdowns, 6 picks is unbelievable, right? From where we were at the beginning of the year.
Right. How often is a Wisconsin quarterback in that list?
And an embattled one, low key, really quick. If you were to go Google Graham Mertz on YouTube, like the 3rd or 4th video that pops up is this guy saying, Graham Mertz, what the heck happened to him? Why did he go to Wisconsin? Made like a year ago, right?
Yeah.
And now he's a top 25 quarterback in the entire country. It's incredible.
He's performing the way that we wanted him to and expected that he would when he signed with us.
Yeah, it's incredible how good he's been, especially, like, to your point, in the wins. Let's finish up here segment 1. Most impactful play for whatever reason. I'm curious where you go here. I love this question that you came up with.
Yeah, this one I'm going with our favorite Illinois game. Chase Brown, 49-yard touchdown in the third quarter. I think there was 6 minutes to go. We were down 24-10. Now look, we were already in a position that I felt like we're not going to win the game, but that run at the 50-yard line just demoralized our entire team. You could see the heads just drop. Not only the players, the fans, all of us, we were all just like, oh my gosh, we're down 31-10 at home against Illinois. It's the most impactful play because, in my opinion, just at least emotionally, that's where the sort of the fate of that game was sealed, and also the fate of Paul Chryst's career at Wisconsin was sealed. And that just took the air out of Camp Randall. And while none of us expected it necessarily to happen after that game, you got to think McIntosh is sitting there like, all right, we're done. Mm-hmm. I mean, this we can't keep doing this. And that, to me, just that you can look back at this season, and that Illinois game is going to be the game where everything turned, right? So within that game, I look at that 49-yard touchdown that just crushed us.
I think that's a great one. Yeah, I think that's really, really well put too. You may have even convinced me to change my answer here, because that I remember that it was a soul crushing just watching it. Like, it was just because you fan-splain these ideas in your head how the team's going to get back into it, and once that happened, it was just like, this is done. Put a fork in it. It's all over. The one I ended up going with, and like I said, yours is great. I went with BA's fumble against Michigan State in overtime. Or second overtime, sorry. And the reason being, if that doesn't happen, I still think we would beat Michigan State there. I think we were going to come out ahead. And then I think with Jim Leonard's first season, we're still kind of in the driver's seat to potentially win the West. And I just imagine the storyline of that, how it would cement his kind of coaching addition, how much momentum that could give the program. Jim Leonard takes over and wins the West in his first year. You could really sell that in recruiting. And I just think that really untimely fumble, man, with bad blocking and a really poor play from Allen. It's a miracle now if we even get back into the West contention, quite frankly. And I think that just really jettisoned what could be a potentially really special first kind of quasi year for Jim Leonard.
That's a good call. I really like that. I had that thought. That one hadn't really came up for me, and you're absolutely right, because we win that game, and then go beat Purdue. Everything is different. Everything is different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Jim Leonard's undefeated. I mean, think about the storylines. Yeah. They write themselves. And you're riding this incredible wave of momentum, even more than we would be. And I think you probably ride it to win the West. And I just don't really have that driver's seat potential anymore. Coming up, where were we wrong? Excuse me. Where were we right? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. Keep Rajiv here for sure. This is a lot of fun. But first, today's show is brought to you by Simply Safe. Excuse me. As everyone knows, athletes rise and fall in the ranks. But when it comes to saving money, Simply Safe always stays on top. And right now, you can save big with Simply Safe Home Security. They're giving listeners 40% off their most advanced security system. Simply Safe was just named the best home security of 2022 by U.S. News. I use it. I love it. I have it on my home. One of the favorite features we have is we have chimes on our doors. So when I have 2 young kids, when they go outside, like, no matter where we are in the house, we can hear the chimes go off. We know we have to go check on the kids. What are they doing? It provides a level of security and just comfort for parents with young kids. It's one of my favorite parts with their system. It's easy to install, no wires. We did it ourselves, and trust me, we are not the most handy people. It is 24/7 professional monitoring. When a threat is detected, Simply Safe's monitoring professionals promptly contact you, dispatch first responders to your home, even if you're away or unable to respond. And we have a great offer. Don't miss this chance to save big when you protect your home with the best. Get 40% off your order when you visit simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege today. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com. Go today. There's no safe like Simply Safe. I want to thank everybody for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Today's show is, again, making it one of your first listens of every day. When you're done here, go check out Locked On Sports Today. From all the games that matter the most to the biggest stories, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's get Rajiv back on. Let's just keep chopping it up. Let's start here. Where were you wrong? And not like I thought the Badgers would be good wrong, but like specifically, where were you wrong about this team?
So I kind of have 2 of these, and I would say I was wrong about, from a bad perspective, I thought Mertz was not going to have a good year at all. I was worried that what we have seen in his career just kind of slowly go like this. I just felt like, this could have been the year where Mertz just wasn't going to be our quarterback anymore. And not that it would have been Wolf or whatever, or Burkett, but just that he was not going to succeed and he would not be as strong as he has been. So I was wrong there. The other thing I was wrong, kind of the opposite direction. I expected a lot more out of the O-line when I heard and when we got the news that Bostad was going back to coach it. I just in my head thought, all right, we're going to have pulling guards all over the place. Braelon Allen is going to run for 300 yards. And it's just, I was really pumped about what Bostad was going to do to this line, given what he's done with the linebackers the last couple of years and the way he did the line before. So, but that's been a disappointment for us. And obviously, Mertz has been sacked, I think 15 times, and it's been a problem. And that's kind of where I realized I really overestimated the O-line and I underestimated Graham Mertz.
Two good ones. Yeah, I would say I was most wrong about the defensive ends from a slightly negative standpoint. I just thought there would be a little bit more there with upperclassmen, Rodis Johnson, Mullins when he was in there. James Thompson Jr., who all these guys are juniors, they're seniors. And I just expected with all of that time in the strength and conditioning program, all that time going to practice, sitting behind better players, there's one sack from the defensive end group combined this year. Like it's just not good enough. And it's really, we talked about Herbig being like that one guy. And a lot of that's because, listen, it's a 3-4 defense. You don't need 8 sacks from your defensive ends, but a guy like Henningsen getting 3 or 4 is a big deal. A guy like Alec James he got 6 one year, like 5 or 6. It's a big deal. So I think that's where I was most wrong. I thought they would be better. I said it on the show. I was definitely off base there. And then much like you, just to agree, I didn't see this from Mertz. I did not see this. So 100% agreed with you there. Where were you right coming into the season? What has proven you right?
Yeah, so I obviously did not think that Paul Chryst would get fired, but I feel like before the season, I really thought that he should no longer be the coach. I wanted him gone after last year, and I really felt like the direction of the program was just not going the way that we wanted it to. I mean, a few years ago, we were this close to getting into the college football playoff. We've been really close. We've been a top 10 team many times, and we never took that last step. And I just did not feel like that last step was coming under Paul Chryst. I thought that after last year, I definitely did not think he was going to get fired midseason, but did really think, look, this is not the coach that's going to take this team forward. So I feel like that I was right on as far as coming into the season and eventually what happened.
Yeah, that's a good call. I'm going to take that Chryst take even a step a little bit further, because I think what I was hoping would happen this year, because I still believe Chryst does a lot of things pretty well. Like I think he builds a culture. He's good with people. I think he can recruit on like a 1-to-1 setting. I think he can make some really good hires, although some of them are just out of left field, but like some of the hires he makes are really good. So what I was hoping would happen is Bobby Ingram would come in and he would step away from the offense. Like Chryst would completely step away from the offense, and we could just see a Paul Chryst CEO head coach. And where I was right, where I'm getting to is, for a long time, I felt the offense has malfunctioned primarily because Paul Chryst can't disengage with his older philosophy, can't evolve with it. And I was hoping that this year he'd let Bobby Ingram just run the show. He obviously didn't, because we've seen a different offense with Bobby Ingram running the show. So where I was right is Paul Chryst has been at the crux of the offensive struggles for several years. He just has been. It wasn't a Joe Rudolph thing. It wasn't a bad quarterback thing. Because again, what are we seeing with Mertz right now? It's been a Paul Chryst thing. And I'm not trying to pile on him, but I really would have liked to have seen, to bring it full circle, what a Paul Chryst, just straight head coach, CEO type of thing would have looked like.
Yeah, we all wanted to see that for so long, and it just never really materialized. And you're right, it's a good call. I mean, he unfortunately he just couldn't get out of that, and he's been, we've said it a couple times on the pod, like he sort of had the shackles on Ingram, and it showed. And this is just it's really what kind of led to the demise of the career. And look, we've said it many times, he's a great guy, just a good person. Really hate to see the way he went down, but it's just what the program needed.
Agreed. No, 100% agree. Best defensive play.
Yeah, so I went with the goal line stands. We've had a couple goal line stands. Now, one of them was Purdue that didn't count, but it was a goal line stand. We talked
Yes.
about that on the reaction show. But I'm going with first quarter Michigan State game. We're up 7-0, and fourth and goal, we stopped them goal line stand. Now, the bad thing about that is subsequently Mertz threw a pick, and they
Yep.
ended up tying up the game. But in that moment, again, game 2 of Jim Leonard, right? We just came off of Northwestern. I'm thinking, okay, we're up 7-0. We had a great drive, opening drive, and then we come down, fourth down, goal line stop. Let's go. It was just, I just felt like the emotion that we had on that play was so high. The defense was like, all right, we're back. And you just kind of got that sense for a minute until the rest of the game that we were there. Like the Jim Leonard thing was going to be, it was here, and the time was now, and we were going to start taking things over. And obviously the rest of the game didn't work out the way we wanted, but that play has stuck with me, and it made me so pumped in that moment. And, but yeah, I mean, it was still a great play, regardless of what happened after. It was a big defensive stand for us. So kind of the goal line stand there and against Purdue. I love goal line stands.
Yes.
When people have it's like 4th and 2 inches, it's just, that is awesome because it's just the crux of football, and it's great to see.
I love it. Right. It's 2,000 pounds of just who gives more of a crap at that point. And it is so much fun. I agree. Goal line stands are like, outside of pick sixes, goal line stands really are the greatest defensive thing you can do, right? Because It's just backs against the wall. It's what football is all about, and that's why I'm going the goal line stand against Purdue, partially because I'm still infuriated at that ridiculous call, but partially because those 2 back-to-back plays that Jordan Turner made, it's got me so hyped for his future, right? The third down play to me was better than the fourth down play, where they threw that kind of smoke screen, that quick receiver screen. I thought there was no chance Turner was stopping him, and he stood him up in space.
Right up. Just
it was
boom.
like he looked like a
awesome.
blocking sled in the offseason, right? Picked him up. It was just I'm still like, I'm getting excited thinking about it. Like, so yeah, I'm going goal line stand Purdue, that specifically that third down play. Let's finish this segment up here. The Come On Man Award, like just something that makes you scratch your head or befuddles you.
Yeah, going to go back to the Michigan State game. 72-yard touchdown. I was their tight end, I believe, right? And oh my goodness, we had 3 missed tackles. First one was Torchio, and he went for the punch versus just going for the tackle. He could have easily wrapped the guy up. And again, it was 14-7. The momentum, we could have been back with us, and we just let them. That 72-yard play. And one thing that just drives me absolutely nuts, and we talked about it on the reaction show after that game, tackling with your head down, just putting your head down and just diving forward. It's just, how many times did we see missed tackles in that game, especially on that play? 3 missed tackles. And Hallman, after Torchio, just dives right in front of the guy. I'm like, guys, come on, man. Just make the tackle. Get your head up. Wrap up. It's what everyone learned when they started playing football. I mean, it just drives me crazy. And that play was, again, just another demoralizing moment.
Well, and to your point, man, maybe I shouldn't have made Torch my defensive MVP.
He's great. I don't want to bag on
Torch.
No. He's had a great season.
I can still picture that Hallman tackle. I'm not picking on him either, but it was just like, golly, this is just not going to work. For my come on, man, and I almost feel bad doing this now because I just kind of talked about Paul Chryst a little bit, but it was those 2 coaching decisions against Ohio State, right? It was the 4th and 1 on the 44-yard line. You're down 21-0. You listen, the one thing that worked in that game, nothing worked in that game, let's be honest. And that wasn't just Paul Chryst. Like, the players played poorly. Paul Chryst coached poorly. Jim Leonard's defense was poor. Vooch was shanking punts, right? Like our best punter in a decade. Like, so nothing worked. But 21-0, 4th and 1, you have Braelon Allen, who at least up to that point ran pretty well. To punt in that situation just felt like, I give up, let's get out of here. Like, it was so deflating to see that decision. And then there was the one in the third quarter where the game is over. At this point, I mean, the game was over way before that, but Vooch shanked the punt. Ohio State had a decent return. They got the ball at like the 48, and there was a penalty on Ohio State, and Chryst just declined it. That was almost the worst of them, because there's literally no reason to decline that penalty other than I'm just bored and annoyed at this game and I want to leave Columbus. Right?
You're so right. You're so right. That was just it was so frustrating as a fan because you're like, hey, listen, like you can't just give up. You can't just not make the
No.
right call, you know?
There's because there's not even the thing is on the fourth down call, I think you have to go for it. Most people I talk to say you have to go for it. I think analytics would say go for it, but there's a group of probably old school guys who are like, punt it away, get a stop. You can at least kind of make a weird quasi argument. There's no mathematical argument you can make for declining that punt penalty. So those to me were just they're still frustrating, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's that saying. We got one more coming up. This is a lot of fun. A lot of these Rajiv came up with, by the way, which is phenomenal. I love it. Coming up, we're going to do best pass, best run of the season, biggest disappointment. We're going to finish it up there. But first, today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire, and if you've been in this position, you know this, can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You can't miss on them. It's tough to hire people. It's tough to fire people. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's something I've used personally. It's something I've used to connect with industry leaders in my industry, in the IT industries where I work. And I still have connections that I've made through LinkedIn that have helped me either gain skills or advance in my career. It has simple tools. There's screening questions where you can make it easy to focus on the candidates you want with just the right skills and the right experience. You can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview, who you'd like to hire. It saves time on both sides. The candidates are wasting time. You're not wasting time. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one, delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. And it's incredibly easy to place your jobs on here. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. It means a ton. I really do appreciate it as we just continue to build this Badger community. It's why guys like Rajiv are so awesome because we get smarter with different insight, different perspective, and quickly becoming a fan favorite, man. It's like he's coming for my job, and I love it. Let's go here. So best dime, best throw of the year for you.
Yeah, this was a fun one to kind of look back. And I think about when I was watching this game, and I feel like so many of the ones I've chosen today were losses, but
right.
I mean, it's just because in the moment, man, I'll tell you. So opening drive against Illinois, the pass, I think it was 22-yard pass to Garendo, opening drive. I loved that play. I know there's a lot of good plays that have been made this year, but there's something about the fact that we're lined up, we're spread out. I think we had two receivers out to the left, one to the right, and then a tight end went out, four men in the pattern. And Mertz was in a shotgun and just dropped back. I mean, instant, like just a quick toss to the corner route to Grendo. It just put it on the money. And it was a beautiful pass. And we're not used to seeing that at Wisconsin. We're just not used to seeing, a shotgun perfectly thrown ball to the corner. And I loved it. And it just got me off my chair. I was so pumped about it. Yes, I realize what happened in that game is nothing to write home about, but that pass was great. And I just feel like, and he's had a lot of good passes, but that just sticks in my head as something I'm like, wow, like that's a beautiful pass. I mean, just right over Grando's shoulder. And it's the play that sticks with me. I'm probably not going to be the popular opinion about this question, but I loved it. And it's just a play that I love watching. And I just feel like that's what we need more of at this program.
Well, listen, you're going to get positive responses on Locked On Badgers anytime we talk about Grendo on the edges. Anytime we talk about Grendo in the passing game anyway. Like, that's...
You love Grendo in the passing game.
we got to get him more touches on the outside anyway. I love that. And I love the fact that you're going to places that people wouldn't necessarily go. Like, it's great. Like, you're thinking about it a little differently than a lot of people, and I think that's really enlightening. For me, the first one that came to my head is BA's pass, Braelon Allen's pass, because... Yeah. Listen, there's a lot of halfback passes out there. There's not many halfbacks that are that patient, like keeping their head downfield, not panicking, and then throwing a really, really catchable ball, right? That's a lot of fun. But the pass I went with was it was Mertz again, obviously, up 14-0. I'm going to the Northwestern game. So now you're up 14-0. Mertz it's 3rd and 8. Mertz gets pressure off his left side. That offensive line you talked about a little earlier didn't really hold up. But this play really showed so much of Mertz's growth this year. So he stepped up, scrambled to his left, and just lofted this little touch pass over the defense to DK, kind of streaking towards the back of the end zone. It just showed the patience, the really underrated mobility and pocket awareness that Mertz has. And then he didn't rifle it. He just threw this really soft, catchable I mean,
Mhm.
it just, again, the growth of Mertz, man. And that's the one that sticks out to me outside of the Braelon Allen. Just unbelievable patience there from the running back.
I
Let's,
almost picked the Braelon Allen one too, but yeah, that's a
it's
good
so
call. That's a good
easy.
call. Yeah.
Let's go here. Best run of the year.
This one was a little harder for me. I mean, I feel like we haven't had something. I mean, look, I'm going with first game of the season, 96-yard run by Braelon Allen,
Mhm.
but just because it's the longest run we had of the season, I thought about actually taking Garendo against Purdue. His touchdown play that was great, but yeah, we haven't had a ton of like huge run plays that are really impactful. But that's one I went with. This one was probably the toughest one for me to really pinpoint one specific run.
Yeah, it's because the first game, it felt a little anticlimactic, right? Like the play itself is incredible, but
Yeah.
it's not like it happened in this incredibly big moment.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right?
Right, there was that Monte Ball run against Iowa, right, where the run was incredible, but the moment was also just so huge. Yeah, I'm going with the Braelon Allen run too because listen, if you put 96 yards, on the books, you almost have to go like that's even against regardless of situation opponent, dropping 96 yards on somebody in a carry is incredible. So
Yeah.
that's what I went with. It's funny that you went Grendo as kind of maybe your 1A because that's where I was going to go to, mostly because I just get really stoked for a guy who put so much time in, like so many injuries, and
Mhm.
he just kept working, kept overcoming, kept rehabbing. And it's a
And
lot of
it's
fun
paying
for
off
me.
now, and it's he's looking when he's
Yeah.
out there, when he's doing well, like you've said many times on the outsides, look, he's an effective player that is
Hmm.
a real weapon for us, and it's exciting to see him play well.
And an easy guy to root for. Just someone who put in the time. So yeah, I'm going Braylon Allen there. I agree with you 100%. This is a fun one. I wanted to do this. We originally called this the Breakout Player Award, but I've changed it to the "Oh my goodness, I can't believe we have this dude for a couple more years" award. So, who is your "Oh my goodness, yes, we have him for several more years"?
Yeah, I mean, I love this guy. I've talked about him a lot on this show. It's Skylar Bell.
Yeah.
I'm so pumped to see Skylar Bell. I feel like he is, look, I mean, last year he had one catch. I mean, it's just I think he's got 22 catches, 367 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's led the team in receiving 3 times. Look, I know he's not DK yet. DK is our number one. We all know that. But the talent level that this guy has, the speed, the hands, I feel like I know he's got a lot of room for improvement and he's going to keep getting better. But this is the guy that Mertz is going to throw to again next year. And
Mhm.
I just feel like I don't want to, overblow this, but I do feel like he has really solid NFL potential talent. I feel like it's there. And I don't know. I really am excited about this guy. And every time I see him make a play, I really like the fact that we've had some tough times at receiver in recent years. And with what we have right now, it's exciting. And I think
Mhm.
he just has talent that we're not used to seeing. And I may not be, again, it might not be the popular one, but I really like Skylar Bell.
I think it's a great pick. That's actually who I had on offense too, for many of the same points that you had. And by the way, low key, really quick, we talked about how good Mertz has been this year. How much of that is he's throwing to DK? He's throwing the Bell. Like he's got better weapons. It matters, So I'm right there with you on Bell. I'm going to shift over to defense. I'm so excited that we have Kamoila too for several more
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Like, listen, he also missed a tackle, a big one, against Washington State, against Nakia Watson, where he ran in for the touchdown. But
Yep.
he is a big, physical, enforcing safety who plays like his hair is on fire. And that was the rap. We had John Garcia from Sports Illustrated, and he said, like, this is a really physical dude. You're gonna like him in Madison a lot. And then you see him out there, you're like, oh yeah, he checks those boxes.
Yeah. It's
Um,
nice to see the talent. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you make a good call there. I think he's just an exciting player that we get to have. And it'll be interesting to see how his skills develop and,
mhm.
how he really hones in on the position and how, he can like take what his raw talent and really turn into something skillful.
It's really interesting to talk about, not on this show, but coming up next year. Torchio obviously is gone, but you're going to have Wooler. You're going to have Kamoila too. You're going to have Austin Brown, that 4-star, 3 to 4 star
Yep.
safety out of Illinois. You have Zachman. There's some interesting talent, and Blaylock could come back if you wanted to. There's going to be some interesting battles at safety. Let's finish up here. And and I've already kept you for 35 minutes. I really appreciate it. We're going to finish up here. Just what's your biggest disappointment overall?
Yeah, when I think about positional wise on the field, it's offensive line. We've talked about it a little bit already. I just feel like they really underperformed, and we just didn't see what I expected. But overall, I just think it's kind of the aura around the program, early the season, after the Illinois game, just the fact that once again we came in and we were favored in the West, and we looked at our team, and we looked at the division, and we thought, okay, like we should be able to get this done. And the fact that it just didn't materialize the way that we expected is just, it really just kind of brings it down. But on the flip side, you've got a level of excitement now with Leonard. So officially my answer is going to be the O-line. But overall, I think it's just kind of the aura around the program after that Illinois game. My goodness. It's just, we're not used to that. We've never really had this, right? And now the fact that we had a midseason firing of a coach, it's just a whole different thing that Wisconsin fans don't deal with. And that's been a huge disappointment.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good take. I went with recruiting for mine. I really thought, and I think a lot of people thought this, that getting Mickey Turner in a recruiting department would kind of clean up some of the issues, right? And I never thought this would be a great class. I said that before the year. I had a lot of people get on me, tell me it's too early, stop. I'm like, listen, it's not going to be a great class. The in-state class isn't deep. But even that being said, to not have a quarterback at this point, having missed on our 5 targets, it's the 12th ranked class in the Big Ten. It's in the 50s nationally. It's just not good enough. And quite frankly, at some point you have to start to wonder, are the people in the recruiting department the right people? Because Paul Chryst hasn't been fired the entire year, and we were missing on a lot of people. So that would be my biggest disappointment. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with Jim Leonard at the helm too.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that's just it's sadly the recruiting department was kind of an effect of the fact that, we didn't have the right people, we didn't have a staff, we didn't have someone leading it, and it looked like the program and Paul Chryst really just kind of, they punted on it too much. They're like, oh, it's fine, we're good, we're okay. It wasn't okay, it wasn't good enough, and this is what we have because of it.
And you're about to stack 2 classes together that, quite frankly, aren't that good, right? That's when you start to run into problems. Like, one class doesn't break a program. When you start having multiple mediocre classes back to back to back, obviously we haven't had 3, but that's when you start to see that downward trend. So that would definitely be my biggest disappointment. But I think this was an awesome show, man. I really do appreciate you jumping on. A lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for listening to us, as always, for tuning into the show. Once you're done here, go check out Locked On Sports Podcast Today, our Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. A bunch more content. The Badgers are on the bye, but we're not. We're going to keep churning out the content, recruiting stuff coming up, basketball news, a bunch more coming up this week. So we're going to talk to y'all tomorrow on Wisconsin.